For over 600 years, this book has been read by everyone and understood by no one. It has been held by emperors, locked away by collectors, studied by spies, mathematicians, linguists, and code breakers trained for war. They all failed, every single one of them. This is not a legend. This is not a metaphor. The book exists. You can see it. You can touch it. Pages filled with symbols that look almost familiar, but never quite human. Letters that flow like a language, yet belong to none. Drawings of plants that do not exist, stars that do not align, and women bathing in green liquid, connected by tubes like veins or intestines. The book does not scream. It does not threaten. It simply waits. And that is what makes it terrifying. Because every attempt to understand it has ended the same way. With silence, with confusion, with the uneasy feeling that the book was never meant to be read by us at all. Some believe it is the greatest unsolved cipher in human history. Others believe it is an elaborate hoax. A few whisper something worse, that the book is written in a language that humanity has forgotten, or perhaps never learned. This is the Voynich Manuscript, and this is the story of a book that refuses to speak. The Voynich Manuscript should not exist. Not because it is old. There are books far older than this. Not because it is fragile. It has survived fires, wars, and centuries of neglect. It should not exist because it breaks rules. Rules of language, rules of history, rules of logic. The story begins quietly in the early 20th century when a Polish book dealer named Wilfrid Voynich purchased a collection of rare manuscripts from a Jesuit college in Italy. High among them was a book unlike anything he had ever seen. No title, no author, no explanation. Just pages and pages of writing that looked deliberate, structured, confident. This was not random. This was not madness. Whoever wrote it knew exactly what they were doing. Voynich tried to read it. He failed. So he did what any reasonable man would do. He showed it to the smartest minds of his time. And one by one, they all hit the same wall. The symbols repeat, but not randomly. They follow patterns. They have grammar. They have rhythm. Like a language, but no known alphabet matches it. No known cipher unlocks it. When World War II came, the manuscript was handed to the best codebreakers on Earth. People who cracked enemy communications and changed the course of history. They attacked the book with statistics, frequency analysis, brute force. Nothing worked. The manuscript did not resist. It simply did not respond. And then there were the images. Plants that do not grow on Earth. Raws shaped like organs. Leaves that twist in impossible ways. Astronomical charts that map stars that do not exist. Diagrams of women, bare and expressionless, bathing in pools of green liquid, connected by tubes that resemble both plumbing and veins. No one could explain them. And that was when a darker question began to surface. What if this book is not encrypted? What if it is written exactly as intended? What if the problem is not the book, but us? Carbon dating would later place the parchment in the early 1400s. This was not a modern fake. The ink was real. The pages were real. The time was real. But the language was not. And that is where the fear begins. Because history is supposed to move forward. Writing evolves. Languages branch and leave traces. But the Voynich manuscript stands alone. No ancestors, no descendants, no echoes. It appears fully formed, then vanishes from the timeline like a thought that never finished forming. And the longer scholars studied it, the more uncomfortable the conclusion became. This book does not behave like a human creation. It behaves like something observing humanity from the outside, trying to imitate our way of recording knowledge, and almost succeeding. At first, the scholars were confident. They always are. They believed this was just another puzzle, an old cipher, a clever trick, a problem waiting for the right mind. They began where humans always begin, with mathematics. They counted symbols. They measured repetition. They mapped patterns. The Voynich Manuscript responded with perfect silence. Not chaos, not randomness. Perfect balance. Some symbols appeared often, some almost never. They behaved like vowels and consonants, like words, like sentences. But when linguists tried to align them with known languages, the structure refused to bend. No Latin, no Greek, no Hebrew, no Arabic, no Asian script, no lost European tongue, no substitution cipher, no transposition. No known method produced meaning. The more data they fed into machines, the more disturbing the results became. Because statistically, the text behaves exactly like real language, but semantically, it means nothing. And that contradiction should not exist. You can fake randomness, you can fake gibberish, but you cannot fake linguistic entropy at this level without understanding language deeply. Some researchers proposed it was a hoax, but a hoax for whom? The book is over 200 pages long, written consistently, illustrated carefully. No jokes, no signatures, no payoff, no explanation. No human has ever spent years creating something this complex without leaving fingerprints. And then there was the problem of mistakes, or rather, the absence of them. Scribes make errors. They correct themselves. They scratch out letters. The Voynich Manuscript does not. It flows without hesitation, as if copied from something else, or written by someone who never doubted the next symbol. Some modern AI models were trained on the text. They tried to predict the next character. The results were unsettling. The manuscript is predictable like language, but unpredictable like thought. It sits in a narrow space between sense and nonsense, where human writing rarely survives. And then came the personal accounts. Notes from scholars who spent years with the book. Some became obsessed, some withdrew, some quietly abandoned academia altogether. They described the same sensation, the feeling that the book was watching back. Not consciously, not alive, but present, as if the act of reading was itself a mistake. And the deeper they went, the stronger the suspicion grew, that this manuscript was not encrypted to hide meaning. It was written to preserve it. From something. From someone. If the text was disturbing, the images were worse. Because pictures are supposed to clarify, they are meant to guide the reader. When words fail, images speak. But in the Voynich Manuscript, the images do the opposite. They deepen the confusion. The plants are the first warning. They look botanical, but no botanist has ever identified them. Some parts resemble roots, some resemble flowers. Some resemble organs cut from a body and reassembled incorrectly. They are not stylized, they are precise, as if drawn from observation. But observation of what? Then there are the stars. Astronomical charts fill several pages. Circular diagrams, constellations, zodiac symbols. But they do not align with medieval astronomy. The positions are wrong. The movements make no sense. It is as if the sky itself has been rearranged. And then there are the women. Dozens of them, naked, may beat it modulus, bathing in green liquid, flowing through tubes and chambers that resemble both plumbing and anatomy. Some scholars claim it represents alchemy. Others say medicine, but no known medical system matches these diagrams. The women do not suffer, they do not smile. They simply exist, contained within a system that does not care about the viewer. And that is the most unsettling part. The manuscript does not explain itself. It does not teach. It does not persuade. It does not even acknowledge the reader. It feels self-contained, as if it was never meant to leave the mind of its creator, or worse, as if it was created for a reader who is not human. Some have suggested the book encodes a private language created by one individual. But languages are shaped by communities. They evolve, they adapt. This one does not. It is frozen, complete. And when modern scientists reconstructed the manuscript digitally, removing illustrations and analyzing text alone, they noticed something chilling. The text and the images barely reference each other. They coexist, but do not interact, like two parallel thoughts never meant to meet.
And that raises a final question few scholars like to say out loud. What if the Voynich Manuscript is not a book? What if it is a record? Not of knowledge, but of observation. A document written by something studying life, plants, bodies, stars, trying to understand them, and failing, just slightly. Enough for us to notice. When logic failed, theories took its place, and none of them brought comfort. One theory claimed the Voynich Manuscript was an elaborate hoax, but that theory collapses under its own weight. A hoax requires an audience, a motive, fame, money. The manuscript delivered none of those for centuries. It slept in silence, unknown, uncelebrated. Another theory suggested it was written in a lost language. But languages leave scars. They influence neighbors. They echo in place names, in borrowed words, in grammar. This one left nothing. It existed in isolation, like a sealed room in the timeline. Then came the theories scholars hesitate to publish. The idea that the manuscript is not encrypted because it does not hide meaning. It lacks meaning. The text may be syntactically perfect, but semantically empty. A language without ideas, a structure without thought. This led to a darker proposal, that the manuscript was generated, not written, common by a system following rules, but not understanding them. And centuries before computers existed, this idea should have been impossible. Yet the patterns remain. Some researchers noticed that if you slightly alter one symbol, the entire statistical balance collapses. This is not how human writing behaves. It is how systems behave. Closed systems. And then there is the final theory, the one whispered, never defended, that the Voynich Manuscript is not meant to be read at all. It is meant to exist, like a marker, like a signal, a proof that something once tried to understand humanity and failed. And instead of discarding the attempt, it preserved it, in ink, on parchment, in a form humans would recognize, but never fully grasp. Because the book does not invite interpretation. It resists it, not aggressively, not violently, but completely. Today, the Voynich Manuscript sits behind glass, in a controlled environment, labeled, catalogued, explained. And yet, no one ever closes the exhibit quickly. People linger. They stare. They feel something they cannot name.
There is nothing moving, nothing glowing, no hidden mechanism. And still, the discomfort remains. Because deep down, we understand something the scholars will never publish. That human knowledge is built on patterns we recognize. We trust what fits. And the Voynich Manuscript does not fit. It is a reminder that intelligence does not require empathy, that understanding does not require meaning, that something can observe, record, and replicate without ever belonging. And perhaps that is why the book endures, not as a mystery to be solved, but as a boundary, to show us the edge of our comprehension, the place where language fails. And when you close the book, there is no revelation, no answer, no relief. Just the quiet certainty that whatever wrote it never intended to speak to us. And that is the most unsettling truth of all. Not that we cannot read the Voynich Manuscript, but that it may already have read us.